Sure, here is section 1 of the script for the story, He Was Just My Father. Until one night altered our lives forever infidelity story, written to be to the point, focused, and at least 760 words in length. I used to believe some people were just meant to feel distant. Like my father. Present, but never really there. He wasn't cruel, not overtly. He provided, fixed broken things, showed up at school events, and remembered birthdays. But he was never emotionally available. I grew up watching my mother carry the weight of our family, while he floated above it like a guest in his own home. My mother, Elena, never complained. She'd smile when she cooked, laugh at my jokes, and listen even when I talked nonsense. Her love felt grounded. But I noticed how tired her eyes looked in the mornings, how she always seemed to wait up late even when Dad said he had late meetings. It was background noise then. Normal. When I came back home after my 3rd year of college, things felt different. Or maybe I had changed. I started seeing things with sharper eyes. My mom still kept things spotless, but the silence between her and Dad had grown heavier. They talked, but only in functional ways, about bills, groceries, repairs. Never about feelings. Never about each other. One night, I walked into the kitchen for water and saw my mom at the sink, standing still, just staring out the window. She looked lost. I asked if she was okay, and she smiled like she always did. Just tired, she said. But her voice didn't match her face. Dad came home an hour later. He kissed her on the cheek, barely brushing her skin. He looked at me, said, "Hey, kiddo," and walked into his office. I noticed he smelled like a cologne I didn't recognize, woodsy, expensive. Not the kind he usually wore. I shrugged it off. A few days later, I borrowed his jacket when it suddenly got cold. I was digging through the pockets and found a hotel key card tucked in one of them. A small, sleek black one with the name of a boutique hotel downtown. It struck me as odd. Dad always stayed at corporate chain hotels for work. This place didn't fit. I turned it over in my hand, unsure what to make of it. Then I found the receipt. A fancy dinner for 2. Wine, dessert, filet mignon. Dated the same night as Mom's birthday. He told us he had a business dinner and would make it up to her the next day. I remembered Mom's quiet nod when he said that. No argument. No sadness. Just acceptance. I didn't know what to do with that information. I told myself it could be anything. Maybe a client meeting that ran late. Maybe a surprise he didn't go through with. I gave him the benefit of the doubt, even when it made no sense. Later that week, I ran into Liam at the grocery store. We hadn't seen each other in years, but he still had that easy smile and boyish charm. We decided to grab coffee. It felt good to talk to someone who knew the before version of me, before I saw cracks in my family's foundation. Liam asked how things were at home, and I hesitated. Fine, I said. He gave me a look and said, "You've always been a terrible liar." I laughed, but the truth lodged in my throat. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what yet. That night, I stayed up late. Dad was in his office again, door shut. I passed by and heard him on the phone, his voice softer than usual. "I miss you too," he said, then lowered it to a whisper I couldn't make out. My heart sank. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't unknow what I'd heard. I lay in bed, trying to reason it away. My mom deserved the truth, but what if I was wrong? What if I was seeing something that wasn't there? But deep down, I knew I wasn't. Something was happening. Something I wasn't ready to face. The next morning, my mom asked if I wanted to go shopping with her. I said yes, hoping normal would feel normal again. It didn't. As we walked through aisles of things we didn't need, I watched her laugh at a joke I barely told. Her laughter was forced. Her eyes didn't smile. I wondered how long she'd known. Or if she even suspected. Maybe she was like me once, willing to look away, to keep peace. Maybe she still was. When we got home, Dad wasn't there. No note. No call. Just gone, and suddenly, I wasn't a kid anymore. I was the observer of a story I never asked to be in. And I had just found the first page. Let me know when you're ready for section 2. Of course. Here's section 2 of the script, continuing from the previous part, written with precision, emotional depth, and a direct narrative style. The word count meets the minimum 760 words requirement. I kept the hotel key card in a drawer, telling myself I'd throw it out. But I didn't. Every time I opened that drawer, it stared back at me like an unspoken accusation. My father's lie, small and silent, sat there with weight I couldn't ignore. I didn't know who to talk to. My mother felt too fragile, and Liam was the only person who might listen without judging. So I told him everything. The receipt, the key card, the quiet phone calls. He didn't look shocked. He just listened. Then he asked, "Do you want to know the truth, or are you hoping you're wrong?" I didn't answer. I didn't know. The next day, I made up my mind. I followed my father. He left home just after 6, said he had a late meeting, kissed my mother on the forehead, and grabbed his briefcase. I waited 10 minutes, then left. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. He didn't drive toward his office. He drove downtown. My stomach turned. I kept a safe distance, trailing him until he pulled into a side lot next to the boutique hotel from the key card. My breath caught when a woman approached his car. She was younger than my mom, stylish, confident. He got out and hugged her like it was the most natural thing. Then they kissed. It wasn't a polite, awkward kiss. It was familiar. Something in me cracked. I sat there, frozen, not out of shock but out of disbelief that it didn't shock me. Maybe I had known for longer than I admitted. Maybe I had been protecting a version of him that never existed. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched the ceiling, playing every moment of my childhood like a film. The missed recitals. The weekend trips for business. My mom sitting alone at the table on their anniversary. Things I once explained away now felt like puzzle pieces snapping into place. I hated how much sense it made. The next morning, he was in the kitchen like nothing had changed. Reading the paper. Drinking his coffee. I stared at him, studying his face. He noticed and asked if I was okay. I told him I needed to talk. He nodded and followed me to the porch. I didn't dramatize it. I said I knew. About the woman. The hotel. Everything. He didn't deny it. Instead, he sighed. Like a man who'd been waiting for this conversation. "It's not what you think," he said, which sounded ridiculous. Then he added, "I didn't mean for this to happen." He looked tired. Worn. "I still love your mother," he said, like that made any of it better. I asked him how long it had been going on. He didn't answer. Just looked away. He said things were complicated. That he felt unseen. That marriage was harder than it looked. And all I could think was, "So you found someone else instead of trying." He tried to justify it. Said he'd never stopped being a father to me. But that's exactly what hurt. He'd been my father. My example. And now he was just a man who made excuses for betrayal. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, watching the man who used to carry me on his shoulders now shrink into something smaller. Later that day, I went into his office. I needed to see it for myself. In the bottom drawer was a folder. Inside, photos of him with her, travel itineraries, old messages printed out. I don't know why he kept them. Maybe he didn't expect to be caught. Or maybe he didn't care anymore. One message stood out. It was from 6 months ago. "I wish I didn't have to sneak around. I want to wake up next to you, not lie to everyone." He had responded, "Soon." Soon, that meant plans. That meant he had thought about leaving. I thought about telling my mother right then. But I didn't. Not yet. I wasn't ready to hurt her more than she already was. And maybe, deep down, I needed to believe she had some idea, because if she didn't, the truth would shatter her. I called Liam. He didn't say much, just offered to drive over. We sat in silence on the back steps. He handed me a soda, like we were still teenagers, and said, "Sometimes people aren't who we thought. Doesn't make you blind. It makes them good liars." And in that moment, I realized I hadn't lost a father. I had lost the illusion of who he was. And maybe that was the deeper betrayal. Let me know when you're ready for section 3, the final part. Of course. Here's section 3 of the script, written in the same focused, non-repetitive style, with at least 760 words to complete the story. I avoided my mother for days. Not because I was hiding something, but because I didn't know how to say it out loud. The truth was heavier now that it had shape. Knowing was one thing. Saying it, admitting it, handing it over to someone else, that felt like betrayal too. I kept imagining her face when she heard it, how her world would shift, how she'd look at me after. Would she hate me for confirming what she feared? She eventually forced it out of me. One morning, she knocked on my door and said she needed to ask something, and she needed an honest answer. Is there something going on with your father? I didn't speak. I just nodded. Her eyes didn't widen. She didn't cry. She just sat beside me and said, I thought so. I asked her how long she'd known. She said not everything needed confirmation. That silence tells its own truth. She'd noticed the change in him long ago. The distance. The lies that were too smooth. The guilt he tried to mask as generosity. She had watched it all happen slowly, like a leak behind a wall, quiet until it rotted everything. I asked her why she never said anything. She looked at me like I was still a child and said, I stayed for you. But there was no blame in her voice, just resignation. I didn't want you to grow up in a broken home. So I let it break me instead. I didn't know what to say. I apologized, as if I was responsible, and she stopped me. Don't carry his mistake, she said. You didn't choose this. That night, she packed a small bag. Not to leave, but just to spend a few days with her sister. She said she needed space to think, not because she was weak, but because she deserved to think clearly. I watched her walk out the door, and I felt both proud and heartbroken. My father came home that evening, noticed her absence, and asked where she went. I told him. I also told him she knew. He sat down, staring at nothing. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, I didn't want this to happen. I asked him if he ever loved her, or if it had just been convenience. He said he loved her in the beginning, and maybe part of him still did, but people change. I said changing doesn't excuse betrayal. He didn't argue. Days passed. My mother didn't come home right away, but we talked on the phone. Her voice sounded steadier. She told me she'd be okay, but not to rush her. I didn't. Liam stopped by more often. He never pushed, never prodded. He just existed beside me like a reminder that not every relationship ends in deception. Sometimes presence was enough. My father tried to talk again. I let him, once. He said the other woman wasn't in the picture anymore. That it hadn't ended the way he thought it would. I didn't ask for details. He said he regretted what he did, that he wished he could undo it. I told him he couldn't. I told him regret was a reaction, not redemption. He nodded. Eventually, he moved out. My mother didn't ask him to. He just did. Quietly, without drama. Like he knew he no longer belonged in a house he helped fracture. He left a note for my mother. I didn't read it. She didn't offer to show me. Weeks turned into a strange kind of routine. My mother came back home, and things were quieter. Not worse. Not better. Just honest. For the first time, there were no illusions. We talked more. Real conversations. She told me about dreams she'd put on hold. I told her I was proud of her. I returned to school, but everything felt different. I wasn't angry anymore. Just clearer. I understood now that love doesn't protect you from pain, and that not everyone who's supposed to protect you knows how to. I still thought about my father, but not with hatred, just distance. One night, Liam asked me how I was doing. I told him, it's messy. But I can finally breathe. He smiled and said, that's a start. What happened didn't ruin me. It opened my eyes. My father wasn't the man I thought he was. But my mother, she was stronger than I ever gave her credit for. And me? I didn't let the truth destroy me. I let it shape me. Infidelity didn't just break a marriage. It revealed the fault lines that had been there all along. And once everything cracked open, we finally had the chance to rebuild something real. Let me know if you'd like me to format this for narration or turn it into a voice-over-ready script.